Hello, everyone. Sorry, I was having a little bit of an issue on YouTube. It's still kind of new to me to go live on YouTube, and there was just a little glitch in the system. Let me pull this desk down. So hopefully this will now work out. And of course, we are here for me to share the monthly fiction book club titles for the coming school year. So I'm going to give everyone a minute to go ahead and get in. If there are enough people, especially if there's some kids watching, I think I'll let them try to guess, which means I have to come up with clues on like a whim. But I'll try. We'll see how it goes. Okay. For those of you just joining in and you have no idea what you've stepped into, I'm Mary Wilson. I am an Outschool teacher, homeschooling mom, and I teach a monthly fiction book club online. So for ages 8 to 10, 11 to 13, and now 14 to 15. So today I am sharing the titles. Let me get them over here that I have picked for each age group. And I have stacks around here, and I should have gotten the 8 to 10s close. I'm making sure you can't see on the screen closer to me before I started. So I'm going to try to wrap up the 8 to 10s by 12:15 because that is when I would start. I said I would start no earlier though, so I might have time to answer questions and stuff at that time. But all of these book clubs take place on Outschool. They're ongoing classes. So the great thing about that is you can come and go. So there are people who leave the class due to schedule changes mid-year that makes an opening available, and then I can offer that opening to someone else. Oh, my shirt. This is a mess up. I was learning to use the Cricut, and I actually peeled these. Like the O and the K are supposed to be reversed. You're supposed to have an outline, and the K is supposed to be white with space around it, but I did it all wrong, but it still looks cute. So I still wear it all the time, but I want to make myself one the correct way. So thank you. Yes, I made the shirt playing around on my daughter's Cricut, and I have started. Of course, I made it because in the summers I teach book and movie club. And I will say in general, the book is better, but that is not always true. But in general, it is true. So the shirt works. Okay, everyone. Speaking of a book, what a lovely segue. Speaking of a book that is going to be a movie, so I'm not saying it is a movie yet, our first title. Let's kick it off for the 8 to 10-year-olds with our first title for the school year, our September book. There's your first clue. It's not a movie yet. But it's going to be a movie on September 27th, which is a really convenient time to have had book club in September. And yes, it is a science fiction book for the 8 to 10-year-olds. That is where we are starting. I'm seeing some guesses come in. I'm going to look over on, yay. Okay. I'm looking over on YouTube as well. All right. And the September book is The Wall Robot. All right. I remembered to flip the screen on Instagram this time too. We are going to read The Wall Robot. Our focus, of course, will be the elements of science fiction, but specifically, we are really going to focus on the setting, how the setting of this story really helps create the story. So that will be specifically what we're looking at that month through The Wall Robot. Okay, yay. That's the first one. I don't know where to lay. I'll lay them on the chair when I'm done. Okay, second one. Here's your clues. Second one. This one was brand new to me when I found it this summer, and I read it, and it broke my heart that my daughter, who I think just joined the live, was not little anymore for me to read this book with her because she would have loved it. Okay, it's magical realism is probably where I would classify it. It takes place in Australia. There's 2 authors. And it's a one-word title. There's some clues for you. The title is one word and it's a name. It's a name. Magical realism, Australia. 2 authors. I'm seeing if there's any guesses. Oh, yay. I'm seeing some guesses over there on YouTube as well. I'm seeing it come in. And yes, it is Bob. Let me tell you, I read this book in like July. Okay, sorry. No, July is next month. Go back a month, not forward. I read this book in April. April would have been when I was reading a lot of them. And I was like, oh my gosh, how did I never find this book? Maybe it's newish. I don't even know. Um, No, it's 2018. How did I never find this book when I had little kids? So excited to do this one. And our focus that month is going to be on plot arc. I like to do plot arc near the beginning of the year just to get all the terminology out there, climax and introduction, rising action, because it's some of the terminology we'll use throughout the year. So we will use Bob to do that. But it is a magical story of a little girl who goes back to her grandmother's house. She hasn't been there in years. She's forgotten all about her time at her grandmom's, and she's forgotten someone really important. So it's a fun adventure. Okay, next one. Our November book is actually our mystery. Normally I do mystery in October, but I decided to do mystery in November. So we are going to talk about opening hooks, and we are going to use a little mystery story that a cat is the detective. I have a feeling that just gave it away. So do you all know who the cat, or should I give another clue? A cat that is the detective that takes place. Renee, you are on it. That takes place in Egypt. Do we now have it? Yes. Yes. All right. We have Ra, the mighty cat detective. This one was so fun. A lot of people have been talking about this one for probably the last year or two. I had not been able to include it, and this year it works out perfectly. And it was just, oh boy, I know why people liked it so much. Ra is such a fun little character. So, yes, I see on YouTube you all got it as well. Yay. Okay, so that is November. And we will look at the elements of a mystery, but we're really going to focus on opening hooks this month and just looking at the ways the author has grabbed us into that story. And again, while I pick a focus every month, I'm telling you, I mean, you could ask the kids in my class. I talk about opening hooks a lot. So it won't be the first or last time they hear about that. Okay. Then in December, we are going to dive into the world of, this one probably enters fantasy. Probably it kind of borders on magic realism and fantasy, but I think since we head into another world, I would put it in fantasy, but we're really going to look at cliffhangers. This one has a favorite fantastical creature that people love, at least in my house. It's a favorite fantastical creature that flies through the air. It has a little boy and his grandma, and she has a whole mysterious life that he knew nothing about, but he's about to find out. And hi, Skylar. Hello. And Annalie and Ashlyn, I'm seeing who is here. Oh, yay. It's so fun to have you all here. You'll have to let me know which ones you're so excited about. I will go over them all again at the end, or someone can fill you in. All right. And yes, dragons in a bag. All right. I know we're kind of starting off the year with kind of a lot of magicalness with Bob. All robot sci-fi, which actually I think falls under fantasy, but a little different. Dragons in a bag. This is such a fun one, and we will use this story to talk about cliffhangers. All right. Then in January, we're going to head to one of our beloved childhood authors who has released another book about family, the love in a family. In fact, one of the lines in this book that is repeated over and over is that every story is a love story. It's all about love, relationships, people. And you're going to hear that line so many times in this book. Hello, Aurora. Hello. It is so fun to see everyone saying hi. But this is Kate DiCamillo's newest book, Ferris. So this one might still be new to you because this one is actually brand new. So Ferris is her latest, and it was a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to discussing this one. Such interesting characters. And in fact, I'm making sure I'm right. We're going to do characterization as our focus that month. because we have a lot of fun characters to talk about. So characterization will be our focus in January. All right, let's move on. I'm putting them all down below me. Okay. Oh, good. When you haven't read. I love seeing that some of these are new to all of you. Okay. In February, we are going to return to a classic, a historical fiction. And it was so good. I can't believe I had not read this title with my kids when they were younger, especially, and here's your clue, especially because my husband is a potter. The mug I'm drinking out of, he made. There's one of all of my mugs. If you ever see me drinking from a mug that doesn't have like words on it that I clearly bought, I promise you he made them. So, historical fiction, a potter is involved. And should I give you the country that we are traveling to? I want to make sure I have it correct. Did it tell me where? Yeah, it did. And we are traveling to Korea. So, any guesses on this one? Let's see. I'm giving y'all a moment. And it is a Newbery winner. It's a Newbery winner, and that is A Single Shard. And I have to tell you, never. Oh, yep. I see Brianne there. Yes, Kim, you got it. I don't know how much light there is on the videos, but I read this summer and I loved it. I loved the main character. I did tell the kids I would try to avoid death, and someone does die in this book. But and while all death is difficult, it's not a pet and it's not a young person. So, I mean, I don't want to give away too much of the book, but last year's historical fiction was really intensely sad. The Birchbark House with a baby dying, and so I stayed away from intensely sad books. This one is full of hope, and it's beautiful, and it was a lot of fun. So this is a great one, and of course, we are going to focus on the elements of historical fiction. What makes a book a historical fiction? What can we learn from historical fictions, and all of that kind of thing. Okay, so that's February. March. I listened to this one on audio. Fantastic audio. Let's see. Fantasy. Our focus is actually going to be on world building because boy, is the world building in this book fantastic. Let's see. Boat. This is a hard one. How am I going to give? So, charting the seas. Charting the seas. Our female main character and charting the seas in a fantasy land. I'm trying. I'm coming up with these in the moment. So if you have a guess, you could drop it in. This will be our March fantasy world building book. And that is, bam, Kim is on it up there. The Last Mapmaker. Have you all read this? I loved it. And it just like kind of twists upon twists, kind of, layered in there. I loved it. So we are going to do Last Mapmaker. And I want to emphasize, especially with kind of a longer book in the 8 to 10-year-old range, audio is fine. You can read the book to your kids. It works out however you want your child to enjoy the story. And once again, this is not the Newbery winner. This is a Newbery honor and a winner of the Walter Dean Myers Award as well. So I was specifically trying to find some good award winners this year. I was trying to look for more Newberries, but we got some in there. And Ferris, there's a lot of talk of Newbery for this year. So we'll see. Okay, I should be wrapping this up because I have to get to the next, but I'm having too much fun. Okay, next one. Another one that was new to me. This one is, we are going to focus on figurative language. It is not a novel in verse, but it has some poetry in it. I have found in the 8 to 10-year-old range, a novel in verse can be kind of challenging. It can be difficult to understand. And while Otter was fantastic for that age group, I have struggled to find one that's not sad for that age group that I really, really loved. So we are going to, I don't have any really good clues for this one. So I'm just going to tell you. especially since I'm running out of time. We're going to read Thirst. Boy, did I enjoy this one this summer. I thought not only is it a great conversation starter about the realities around the world, it's not historical fiction though. It's a realistic fiction based on some of the author's travels. But I loved our main character and everything that was going on here. We'll probably talk a little bit about theme that month also, though our focus again will be on figurative language. We'll look at some of the poems that the main character writes. All right, I have 13 and 11 to 13-year-olds joining. So let me give you the last book for the 8 to 10-year-olds. This is one, gosh, I think I read this in January when I picked it. Here's the crazy thing. The crazy thing. I did not realize that the same two authors that wrote Bob also wrote this book. I literally didn't realize it until I was typing up the titles. I don't know how it went over my head. And I was like, I picked a book by the same authors. This is their newer one. So I'm looking for when it was published. This one was published in 2023. And it is also by Rebecca Stead and Wendy Mass. We are going to focus on endings. You know, we've always talked about opening hooks, and we've often talked about the endings, but I just want to make sure I take a month to focus on that. And we are going to do that with The Lost Library. And what book club teacher can resist a book titled The Lost Library? But it was a delightful read. Great characters. Cat. Magical fun. I'm really looking forward to this one as well. Okay, so for a quick rundown, since I have them all in a pile, and then I promise my 11 to 13-year-olds I'm ready to go. So let me go through them real fast. The Wild Robot. By the way, I will be adding an optional, totally optional, sign up separately, movie club. The movie club will open up to anyone. Of course, book club will get, first priority and a coupon code. But then I will open this up to anyone who wants to join our movie club after the movie comes out. Then we have Bob. Then our mystery Ra, the Mighty Cat Detective. Then we have Dragons in a Bag. Ferris, The Last Map Maker. I think is that out of order? Yeah, I don't know where I put Thirst. Oh, Thirst. I got books everywhere. And I'm out of order because a single shard is actually February, but you're at least getting all the titles so that you have them. All right. Those of you who are already registered because you are returning students, later tonight, you will get your list of all the titles, our focus, and it does mention the movie club. Not on this one, I redid it. Movie club option that will be coming as well. Okay, let's move on to the 11 to 13-year-olds because I see Meredith is here and Isabella is here and I know Aurora is here. So let's move on to our next age group. I'll review them all again at the end. So glad you're excited. If you are one of my 8 to 10-year-olds who is here, go ahead and type in the one you're most excited about. It'll be fun for me to see. And in the meantime, we'll move on. Let me switch my papers. Okay, 11 to 13-year-olds. Oh, okay. Parents, you're going to enjoy this first one I picked for them as well because you're going to get to share stories. Okay, so this is going to be your moment to be able to share a story. It's not a historical fiction. It's actually a science fiction. Okay, and I am seeing, oh, Georgie's excited about Ferris. Yay. Okay, so this first one for the 11 to 13-year-olds is a science fiction that is I can't start. I want to see what the 18 and 10-year-olds are excited about. Ashlyn is excited about The Wild Robot. Me too. And I have to tell all the parents listening, I read The Wild Robot to my kids when they were younger, much younger. My oldest may have been, I don't even know. I think Trisha was like 12. So 7 years ago. I don't know when it came out. It was like the year it came out. And she is 19 now and she wants to go see the movie. So I'm going to get to take my kids too, even though they're all grown. Annalie is excited about The Lost Library. Yay! Oh, that's going to be a good one. All right, let's move on to the 11 to 13-year-old titles. So the first one is science fiction, and we're going to have some things that involve a moment in time that you parents have lived through, Y2K. All right, so it's going to jump us to Y2K. And that moment, that new year that was coming that we all thought, oh no, So many people just thought this was it. This was the end. Everything was going to collapse, and you're going to get to share it with your kids how you were feeling if you were nervous about it at all. So here we go. Science fiction, Y2K, visiting a mall is really important in this book. Somebody is really excited to see a mall. I don't know if you've heard of this one. It is pretty new. If you are not in the US, I have been told it's going to be a little harder to come by, and I am sorry. So look now, look early, and that is The First State of Being. If you are a fan of books like When You Reach Me, um, this was a fun one. I don't even want to say much. I don't even want to say much because you're like, where is this going? Where is this going? And it goes on a great ride. So we are going to kick off with our science fiction, and what I'm going to focus on, just a little thing to add in with the older group on science fiction, is hard versus soft science fiction. We're going to kind of talk about how there's a different emphasis in a hard science fiction book versus a soft science fiction book. This one would be considered soft science fiction. The Rover story last year was probably soft science fiction, and we're going to kind of talk about that. All right, so that is our first one. In October, let me change gears. That's your hint. To our October book, where once again, we're going to kind of briefly go over the plot arc. But with this group in particular, while I will review the plot arc just to kind of get that out there, we're going to look at the concept of an extended metaphor, because the title of this book is an extended metaphor. And I gave you your hint, so I don't know if anyone knows. Yes, Annalise, you got it. Mercy Suarez changes gears. And I did pick this specifically because it was a recent Newbery winner. And I loved the family in the book, and I love this idea of taking an extended metaphor throughout the book. How is Mercy changing gears? Because it's not just about a bike, right? We know that as adults, but these are kind of the fun things to talk with our kids about. What are some of the other gears that Mercy is changing? All right, so that is what we will talk about in October with Mercy Suarez. Did I say Watson? I'm sorry, Mercy Watson is the pig in the little kid's story that we loved. Mercy Suarez changes gears. Yes, it is a great book. Love that one. Okay. Let me see. Oh, November, Our Mystery. I have to tell you, this is an author I love. We have actually read a book by this author before. It wasn't a mystery. It wasn't a mystery. It was one that I think we looked at point of view, maybe. Anyway, it was maybe 2 years ago by this author, and I had never read this mystery series. And boy, this is my kind of book. So selfishly, this is why this is on the list. I love books that you can't figure out what's going on, and it's unique, and there's lots of twists and turns. And so this one is by Gordon Corman. A mysterious city. Something is going on very mysterious in this city. The kids who live there are starting to catch on. Their city is not normal. Something is wrong, and they're determined to figure it out. What is wrong with the city where they live? By Gordon Corman, we are going to read Masterminds. I cannot believe none of my kids have ever read this book. I don't even know how I came across it, except I'm constantly searching for great middle grade literature, and I thought this one was such a fun, wild ride. Oh, we can talk about characterization. We're not, because our focus is opening hook and mystery, but we will probably talk about characterization too. Like I said, the focus is just kind of a focus to make sure we're hitting lots of different things during the year, but we talk about all the things all the time that kind of come out in the book. So Masterminds, if I had to guess, probably a new one for a lot of you. That's my guess, because it was like so off my radar. Okay, the next one is not new to probably anyone. It has been a #1 request for, like, other than Harry Potter, which we did last year, for, ooh, I'm sorry, Instagram, you are on my phone and you are propped on top of my laptop and you just took a dive. This has been a #1 fantasy adventure book. I think they just recently released book 9, 10, I don't know, maybe it was 8. I don't know because I've only read book 1. Yep, I'm seeing some guesses already. These are huge. I have resisted reading them because they're huge. But our December book, we will dive into the fantasy adventure of Keeper of the Lost Cities. And we will specifically, and if you've read this book, you know why, we will look at cliffhangers because almost every chapter ends with one. And we will talk about, yeah, I see YouTube. You all had it over there too. Keeper of the Lost Cities. So I resisted for so long and then finally read it and I get it. I get it now, everyone. So let's discuss it together. Yay! Meredith just yelled, yay! Yes, this one has been highly requested. Okay, the book for January. Let me tell you, this is a nonfiction title. I listened to the audio. The audio was incredible. The only tricky thing with this nonfiction title is kind of keeping the timeline straight. So I'll talk to the kids about that. Maybe, keeping some notes as they read. That was the hardest thing for me, was keeping the timeline straight. This nonfiction book reads like a mystery thriller. Okay. Like, you don't want to put it down. I was reading this in like February, maybe at night, and like I wasn't going to sleep. The author has done an incredible job. So we'll of course talk about that, like the techniques being used to give us a factual nonfiction story of a famous lady and making it into a thriller. So I think you will all enjoy this one, and that is The Mona Lisa Vanishes. A legendary painter, a shocking heist, and the birth of a global celebrity. Yes, Renee, you got it. The Mona Lisa. I got to tell you, I mean, lines. Oh, I could sit here and read the intro to this book out loud to you all because it's so engaging. Anyway, I loved it. We'll see what the kids think. They don't always agree with me, but it did win the award for nonfiction. This is kind of like the Newbery for nonfiction. The Seibert Award is kind of like the Newbery, but for nonfiction. So again, I said I was looking for some award winners this year. Oh, okay. Yes. If you've seen the Mona Lisa before, get ready to pull out those pics and show your kids just how tiny the Mona Lisa is. That's what shocked me when I saw the Mona Lisa in the Louvre. All right, moving on. A historical fiction. I have to tell you that this is one of my son's favorites. He is now 17, and his 14-year-old brother just read it this year. They loved it. It is World War II, but it's kind of removed a bit from some of the harsh realities of World War II. Though it is going on, it is a backdrop and part of the entire reason for the story. But our main character, girl, female, so unique. She is crippled. And it has impacted her greatly because her mother was abusive. And she is quickly out of that situation. But the story of how the war actually saved her life. Loved this book. Such an engaging character. As soon as I read it, I said to my sons that once they hit high school, my kids are in an English class outside of our house, so I don't always read the books they're reading. And I was like, man, I should have listened to you earlier and read this one. It is also a Newbery Honor book, so it didn't win, but I mean, the character development in this book of not just the kid, the main character, but the adult she is living with goes through some amazing character development. Just love this book. Of course, we're going to look at historical fiction, but I have a feeling we're going to add in some stuff about a character arc and kind of look at the development of these characters. Will probably be kind of a focus along with historical fiction that month. All right, good. I'm seeing a lot of people say the sequel is good too. Somebody else recommended. Okay, so everybody's coming in with glowing reviews of that one. Okay, the next one. If you have a child in the 8 to 10-year-old and the 11 to 13-year-old, then you will have 1 month, February, that they will be reading the same book. Because I could not resist. This was a perfect book to do with both groups and do some fantasy world building. So your 11 to 13-year-old will also get to discuss The Last Mapmaker. Usually I do the same title in the groups in December and May. That did not work out for a variety of reasons this year. But so they will repeat the same book in February. And the 11 to 13-year-olds will also get to discuss The Last Mapmaker. All right. I see someone saying, oh, Thirst was the global read aloud last year. That is, I didn't even, there's a global read aloud? I'm gonna have to look this up after I get off. So thank you for sharing that. That's from the 8 to 10-year-old book club, by the way. Okay. Sorry, I had a note for myself. Remember to grab The Last Mapmaker for this group. Okay. Then my 11 to 13-year-olds are going to do a novel in verse. Okay. I love a novel in verse. Love it. We did not do one last year. The kids don't always agree with me on my love of the novel in verse. So I don't always do it every year. I want to find one that I think that will be maybe relatable for some of the kids. And this one I suspect could be. I don't know what clues to give about this one, except it is a novel in verse, middle grade. Aren't they all like finding yourself, identity, and feeling good about who she is? And that is good, different. So our main character is autistic, I believe. Gosh, it's been a while since I've read this one, but I believe she's autistic and she's learning to be comfortable with herself and what makes her unique and what makes her different, but good different. And so many of these titles have this nice, like, love these titles. This was a great one. So we will get to discuss figurative language because the entire book is in poetry. I loved it. And we'll discuss, that the choice of that format for this particular story. Did it work? Did it not work? And why maybe the author chose to do that. All right. We have one more book. Just making sure no comments are coming in that I have lost. Okay. One more book. And that is, and then I have to get to my 14, 15-year-olds. I'm almost really on time. Our final book for the 11 to 13-year-olds, we're going to focus on endings, and that is The False Prince. How had I never read this? This is the beginning of a trilogy, which will be nice because it is the final book, so you can kick off the summer finishing. I think it's called the Ascendants trilogy. I can't remember. It's not written anywhere on here, but I think it's the Ascendants trilogy. And your child can finish reading it going into the summer. This is by an author that I love for the middle grade. This author wrote A Night Divided. For those of you who are with me for A Night Divided, Jennifer Nielsen wrote The False Prince. So there you have it. The 11 to 13-year-olds, I'll review. They're all down here. Okay, so back to the beginning. We have The First State of Being. And remember, if you are in class, if you are signed up already, you'll get a printable list tonight. Mercy Suarez Changes Gears. Masterminds. I saw somebody say we love The False Prince. Oh, isn't it a good one? I don't even want to say much about it. I just don't. Keeper of the Lost Cities. All right. The Mona Lisa Vanishes. Yes, and 11 to 13-year-olds, tell me what your one you're looking most forward to. Adeline hopes to get a spot. I hope so too. But again, if you do not get a spot in the summer, after July 1st, contact me, get put on the waiting list. And remember, this is an ongoing class. People's schedules change. Somebody decides they were only there for the first 3 books, then they want to pull out. People join the book club throughout the year. So even Adeline, if you're not able to get in right at the beginning, just get on that wait list and I will, let people know of opportunities that happen throughout the year. And sometimes I can open up more spots in a book club once I meet the students and know, like, could this group handle more people, or not. I see a lot of people saying, looking forward to Keeper of the Lost Cities, Keeper of the Lost Cities, Keeper of the Lost Cities. I am not shocked. Another Keeper of the Lost Cities. Steven saying Mona Lisa Vanishes. Audrey's Keeper of the Lost Cities. Meredith. Yeah, so many people. Keeper. War That Saved My Life. The Last Mapmaker. And I see someone saying, how do we get signed up? Registration opens July 1st at noon on Outschool. Good Different. I'm seeing some votes for Keeper and Mona Lisa Vanishes, more Mona Lisa Vanishes, and The False Prince. So you'll want to go to my Outschool profile. If you're on my email list, I will send an email that day and say, hey, it's time, go register. It'll be your reminder. Otherwise, put a little alarm in your calendar, go to my Outschool profile. And as soon as I make the sections public, they will appear if there are openings. There are not many. A lot of my students returned. So then you can just send me a note on Outschool. Hey, I didn't see any openings. Could you please add me to the wait list? And I will get started doing that. Okay, masterminds. I see someone is looking forward to good, different. Okay, a nice variety. A nice variety. Everyone's going to find stuff. And my book club students will tell you it's okay if you didn't like the book. You can come and say, this was not my thing, and we'll discuss why. And what's nice about a book club is even if you did not enjoy reading the book, it wasn't your thing, coming to book club allows you to appreciate what other people saw in the book, to appreciate the techniques that the author was using, and to kind of open. I don't know how many adults out there have, I've read a book and been like, that was not my thing. And then when I went to book club, I was like, huh, okay. I think I liked that book more than I thought I did. So thank you. Yes, good choices. Okay, 14 to 15-year-olds is next. And parents, this is a great reading list for you this summer too. So stick around if you want and build up your own summer reading list. So let's go on. 14 to 15-year-olds is new this year. It is the one book club that I can add more sections. So if I end up with in fact, I need to add a section. I'll be sending out a survey to my email list to figure out what time to add it. So that should be the one that if you have a 14 or 15-year-old or 13-year-old who wants to join this book club, that should be one they should easily be able to get a spot in compared to the other two because it is brand new. So right now, I think I only have 2 sections of it. I could easily do up to 4 of them if I needed to. Or more. Okay. So this book club is going to start off with a book that I think actually a few of these are like our favorite read aloud. 2 of these are my kids' favorite read alouds, probably of all time, the most impactful that we loved. So the first one they are starting with is a science fiction. It was requested by lots of the kids going into the 14 and 15-year-old class. And it is one that my kids were gripped from the beginning. I read it out loud to them. I read it out loud to them when there was only an adult version. So we had what would be considered the mom edition. But our book club will use the classroom edition. And I see someone asking about a 16-year-old. A 16-year-old is welcome. I will do a year up. So the reason I put the age 14 to 15 is I want people to know that the discussions in the books are kind of gauged to a little bit on that younger end of high school. But a 16-year-old is more than welcome. If they look at the titles, I'm like, this would be awesome. I'm 100% welcome them in. In fact, as we're talking here, if you have kids on the border, 10-year-olds, 11-year-olds, 13-year-olds, 14-year-olds, they can go up or down. So I have 10-year-olds who jump up to the middle school book club. I have 11-year-olds who go down to the 8 to 10-year-old. Totally fine. They can look at the book list. What would they enjoy reading the most? There's a little flexibility. I have 10-year-olds who do both book clubs because they love to read and want to discuss more books. So they sign up for both. So there is some flexibility, kind of a year up or down. Okay. But we are going to kick off with the classroom edition, not the mom edition, which I had to create myself as I was reading the adult version aloud of The Martian. I have to tell you, for someone who is not into like hard sci-fi, and that's what we're going to talk about, hard versus soft sci-fi, I was gripped for this story right away. I couldn't even believe it. I was like, I cannot believe that this person alone on a planet is actually like a gripping story for me. My son went on to read more books by this author. And in fact, Hail Mary is going to, I think it's called Hail Mary, is going to come out as a movie coming up. They've released that will eventually be made into a movie at some point. So if you have a kid really into science fiction, this might get them off on a kick. I don't think Hail Mary has a classroom edition though. The major issue is language. It's language. So, if you have a 15, 16, 17-year-old, you're okay with that. I don't even mind if they want to read the adult version and come to book club. It's just they need to know that the language in that one is not allowed in our book club. Okay. So we're going to go with the one that is modified for classroom use because it is such a good book, but it does change the significant number of F-bombs in the adult version, which, as I explained to my kids, well, if you were stranded on Mars, your language might change a little, but we're going to go with the classroom edition. And by the way, this is a good time to let you know, if you sign up for the 14 to 15-year-old book club, the second page of your packet is a little content warning list just to get you started with some help. Obviously, you need to do your own research, Goodreads, Common Sense Media, because we are starting to get into young adult literature where everyone's going to have a different line of where they want to draw it. In general, you're not going to find a lot of romantic content from me. That's not my jam with 14, 15-year-olds. I will let you know if there's anything in there. It will never be anything more than like a kiss or a thought of a crush, that kind of thing. But there could be language. There is definitely violence in some of the books. So I'm giving heads ups to parents for these books. Classroom edition of The Martian, you will have a content warning that, there is still some light cursing in there, but they have eliminated a lot of the heavy cursing. Okay, so that is how we will start our year. In October, we are going to read one of my personal favorite dystopic series that doesn't get talked about a lot, but it was a Prince Honor book. So the Prince Honor book is basically the Newbery for young adult. This is one of the more violent books we will read this year because dystopic literature typically is violent. And this one is because we're going to go into our world in the future where no one dies. We have conquered death. We can live forever. But that would make the population out of control so that there are people who their only job is to kill people at random. And they are the scythes. And this gets into power, control, good and evil. I love this book. My son probably read it around 14 or 15, and then it's a trilogy. So you can finish it. Your child can finish it if they would like. But there is obviously violence in there. So there's a content warning on this one. You can look it up on Common Sense Media, get some more details if you want. But in this world of dystopic literature, you are definitely going to find some violence. But boy, this one is gripping. I think it starts out a little more violent, kind of grabs you, and then it calms down a little because it's more getting into the personalities, the control, the different way people are approaching their job. Okay, let's go on. Sorry, I've lost my list. November. Ooh, we are going to read a mystery that actually, at first glance, looks like a little young for 14 to 15-year-olds. The main characters are even 12. But it's not just me. If you look on Goodreads, and I talk to librarian, most people reading it are like, it's kind of like for older teens. There's a lot of issues dealt with in the book. The characters even behave like you forget they're 12. So we are going to read The Parker Inheritance. This one has timelines jumping back and forth. So we're going back into, I think it's the 1960s. I want to double check. A time of racial segregation, racism, and they're trying to solve a mystery of something that happened then that is connected to now in their town. So we're kind of jumping back and forth. So there are some content warnings on this one as well. There's a lot of issues. So there are some racial slurs in it. There's some threats. There is some violence, especially in the timeline in the past, because there was violence. Racism led to violence. So this one is such a great book, but I thought it was more appropriate for the 14, 15-year-old range. And that is why it is there, because of some of the content. So it's always surprising to me that I think this one's even in the juvenile, not young adult section. So just my personal feeling and looking at Goodreads, it looked like it was a lot of people's personal opinions about this one as well. But it's going to be a good one. All right. What do we have next? And then I can't let my 14 and 15-year-olds miss out on the fun that many of them have been requesting for a long time. So in December, they too will read and discuss Keeper of the Lost Cities. We will all get to this. I think my son was actually 14 when he started and then devoured this series. So we will also get to dive into this one and talk about cliffhangers and everything in the 14 to 15-year-old classroom. All right. Sorry, I'm moving my books around. I should be putting them on the chair. Let me put them on the chair out of my way. Okay. Oh, Emily, that is a really good question. So I'll take a quick break to tell this. Okay, Outschool, where I teach book clubs, the default language is weekly. Most ongoing classes happen every week, kind of like my weekly graphic novel class. They do not have default language to say monthly. So I try to plaster it all over the class description, but I cannot change their default language. So when you see the price and you see $20, their default language says weekly. But I can promise you that it is monthly. You are charged the Sunday night before a scheduled meeting. And because I only schedule meetings once a month, you will only get charged once a month. So I just can't change their default language. I wish they allowed it, but they think most teachers who are teaching ongoing classes are going to meet weekly. So I try to, again, plaster it everywhere, but it's just hard because when you go to hit subscribe, that's the word you see, but it is not weekly. The other question is, are your book clubs Christian or secular? They are secular. So because I'm teaching on Outschool, my religious beliefs are not in the classroom at all. We are not looking through a Christian worldview at any of the titles. That is not part of my teaching. And Outschool is also a secular platform. So these are secular book clubs. All right, let's get back to the books. Sorry, I wanted to answer those. These are all really good questions. In January, they are also going to join the middle school book club because I couldn't resist. A good nonfiction is a good nonfiction. And so we will also read this in the 14 and 15-year-old book club. If you are one of the few people, there are a few people signed up for middle school and 14 to 15, you can chat with me and we'll work something out on the months that it repeats, which one they want to attend. You will not need to pay for both. We'll work it out. All right. After that, I'd already talked about Mona Lisa Vanishes, but if you're new here, just tuning in, it's a nonfiction and it reads like a thriller, like a page turner. Okay, next. The next is probably, along with Scythe, these are the two violent content warnings. And this one is a historical fiction by one of my favorite young adult historical fiction authors. I listened to this book on audio with my teenagers, and we were all captivated. And then we found out that I have a friend whose husband actually grew up in Romania under this communist regime that we had just learned about in I Must Betray You. Oh, this book, there's torture, there's violence, and it's state sanctioned torture and violence. I would not say it's over the top. It's not an adult book. It is definitely a young adult book. But like I said, Scythe and this one, if you have a kid who really hates violence, these are going to be the ones that are going to have the content concerns. Did I say anything else? There was a little bit of infrequent language in this one as well. And this one has a little bit of flirting between two characters as well. But boy, I learned about a time in history that I had no idea. Nikolai Chichevkov. It was helpful to listen to the audio. I could get the names down. And the communist regime in Romania. So this was excellent. And by the way, this author in general for young adult, thumbs up. Love her books. Okay. Where are we? Okay, we are in March. In March, we're going to do a classic. One that my kids read when they were in high school. I'm getting a question about The Martian. The classroom edition, my understanding is pretty much the same as the adult, but they modified the language. That is my understanding. I have not compared the two. So you might want to research that. But we will be discussing the content of the classroom edition. But my understanding was they mainly just changed the language. Okay, we're going to go to a classic. One that is a beloved movie classic by many, many, many. Let's see. It is like a fairy tale but with a lot of humor. In fact, we're going to use this one to talk about archetypes in literature. It is a grandfather reading a story to his grandson, and then you dive into the story, the fairy tale story, and then you come back out with the grandfather and the grandson, The Princess Bride. Oh, and I should add, I forgot to say with The Martian. With both The Martian and The Princess Bride, I will have an optional movie add-on for the kids who would like to then watch the movie and discuss it. Not something you have to do. It will be like a separate thing to sign up for if you want to do it. But we will do The Princess Bride. All right. And this is my book. By the way, in between the two Post-it notes is where the actual book is. Like, this is all the like why we love this book, why this book is so awesome. And this is like concluding thoughts. So the actual book is like right there. With The Princess Bride. So, okay. Then my 14, 15-year-olds are also going to do a novel in verse. This one focused on a girl who has to leave Syria and come to the US, but her brother remains in Syria. So there's a little bit of violence, not anything graphic, nothing like the other two that I mentioned here. And we are going to read Other Words from Home, which is a Newbery Honor book. Did not win the Newbery, but they typically pick like 3 to 5 more books to honor with the Newbery Honor, and this was one of them. Again, novel in verse. All right, so a quick read, but the novels in verse can really capture emotion and depth in a whole different way. So here we go, novel in verse. Other Words for Home. Let's get to our last book. And because I loved it so much, the 14 to 15-year-olds will also join in for The False Prince, the Ascendance trilogy, and they will get to kick off their summer reading, finishing the series if they like it as much as I did. I just thought it was really unique, specifically the narrator and how it's told. Again, it's just one of those books you don't want to say a whole lot. Just don't want to say a whole lot. But this will be our final one. All right. I see someone saying they've never read a novel in verse. Ooh, then you are in for a treat. You are in for a treat. And I would definitely add, this one is the middle school and this one is 14, 15. And keep in mind, these are just great book lists. So even if your child, let's say your child is in the middle school one, you can kind of do some research, check out the content of the older one and add it to their list just to read for fun if they want to. All right. Should we review them real quick? I think most of you were here the whole time. But real quick, I'm just holding them all. First up, Martian, Classroom Edition. Then we have Scythe, a little bit violent. We're gonna talk about the elements, what makes a dystopic book. Parker Inheritance, our mystery and jumping timelines. We'll get to talk about Keeper of the Lost Cities, Mona Lisa Vanishes. Somewhere in there, I think I'm out of order now. I Must Betray You, The Princess Bride. I think I might be back in order. Other Words for Home, and The False Prince. I meant to mention Good Different. Those of you who are still here, this comes out in paperback in December, which is why it's not assigned till April. So you can grab this in paperback in December. This is the library book. I've pre-ordered it for December. Oh, The False Prince is a 5-book series. I'm so glad you jumped in to let me know that. Yeah, it is a very popular series. So they can finish the whole series. Thank you. Yeah, whether or not you've done my book clubs, maybe you're not even planning to do them. I hope you just walked away with some great summer reading for your kids. Absolutely. These are fantastic books. I've had such a fun time collecting all these titles. So I'd love to see your kids if it ever works out. But if not, grab some great book titles for the summer. All right. Are there any other questions? You can register on July 1st at noon. Let me know if you need to join the wait list. My email list is the best place to be to get information, because I will probably let them know like if there are any openings even left. If you missed it yesterday, I revealed all of the graphic novel titles for the weekly graphic novel class. So if graphic novel is your kid's jam, you can look for that video on YouTube. It's still there. And we meet every week for a different graphic novel. It is noon Eastern, July 1st. I will be in the car driving home from vacation. So I will get on my phone around 11:50-ish and start opening. I have to go section by section to open them to the public. That said, there will only be a few that have openings, and I will probably open them first and have them open to the public. So it shouldn't take too long. So I might start 11:55, but somewhere in there, the sections will show. And if your child is interested and you're like, I don't know, they might not like this at all. They might hate the online environment. They might not like the format this lady uses. Miss Mary, I am teaching summer book and movie clubs right now. So there are openings. I think next week we have Enola Holmes. So that's a great one. I think that's ages 10 to 13. And again, I'm usually flexible up or down a year. If you have a teenager and they want to give it a try, a class with me in July, I have the Maze Runner. I think that's listed ages 12 to 15. If you had a 16-year-old who wanted to do that one, I think that would be more than appropriate. So these meet twice. We discuss the book at the first meeting, and then we meet 2 or 3 days later and compare it to the movie. So I know I don't think I have openings in Ivan. I have openings in A Bear Called Paddington, which I have to tell you, this was a surprisingly delightful movie if you've never seen it. Like, I loved the movie and I did not expect to. Maybe it's one of those things where my bar was low, so I was pleasantly surprised, but I thought this movie was so well done. I can't wait to hear what the kids think. And I think there might be a handful of openings for The Magician's Elephant, like 1 or 2. They might have disappeared this week though, so don't hold me to that. Right now we're doing this one. That's this week. Okay, your kids love the Paddington movies too. Okay, so it's not just me. So if you want to give it a try before you committed to the school year, people in Enola Holmes next week will actually be, as current students, they will get links early if they want to register for a school year book club. I always offer that to current students. And I did have people, by the way, if you're registered for a summer book and movie club in July or August, you are considered a current student if you want to send me a note and say, hey, could I register early? Because I'm a current student. It's just my class doesn't happen until July. Would you mind sending me a link? I've had people do that, and I'm happy to do that as well. All right. And my book clubs are fun, I think. I mean, I'm having fun. I think the kids are having fun. I mean, they keep coming back. It's relaxed. There's no pressure. You don't have to raise your hand and talk. I'm not going to call on anyone or call them out. Um, I have had kids, all sorts of kids, quiet kids, chatty kids, kids with all sorts of things, dyslexia, because you can listen to the audiobook. Your parent can read it to you. I'm not making anyone read in front of anyone, nothing like that. So it's usually just a really fun either add-on to your homeschool, or, I mean, for your 8 to 10-year-old, it could easily be kind of your literature for the year. Literally just my book club. But that's my philosophy in homeschooling. I teach these classes the way I did my own kids when they were like 8 to 10. As you get older, you might want to be adding some more things. In fact, for my 14 and 15-year-olds and maybe my middle school, if I think of things, I might kind of put them in a packet. When you are registered for book club, each month I send out a packet and it has questions they can think about ahead of time. I'm going to encourage my 14 and 15-year-olds to also come with questions that they might want to ask the book club, just to see how that goes. No one's going to be forced to. But I'll put out some questions they can think about and some maybe learning things they can do, and that kind of thing. So you get that each month, which it's also a nice portfolio piece. I wish I had one around. But for those of you, I think all of my students almost all are homeschooled, 99%. If you have to report a portfolio, the book club packets, one of the reasons I made them as a fellow homeschool mom was these could be slipped in a portfolio to be like, here's what my child's doing. There's a different focus every month. They, sometimes I include worksheets, optional. You don't turn them into me. You don't have to have them, but you could have them do them to put in a portfolio. And we always play game. Books categories, would you rather? In fact, if any of the kids are still hanging out here, they can let me know what games they really liked. Last year we tried 2 truths and a lie. I was just trying different things. So who knows? I need to come up with some more games for these kids so that they're different each month. All right. Woo! It's been an hour. So are there any other questions before I put all these books in their place on my bookshelf? They all go right here to kind of fill in for the year. But let me know if there's any other questions I can help anyone out with before we say goodbye. There's a few books I think I mentioned that will have an optional movie add-on that you could do because I just think that's always so fun. All right. I don't see any questions coming in, so I'm going to assume we are all good. So excited. If you're watching the replay and you have gotten to this point, drop a note with what your child is most excited about reading. Oh, I see someone just said on YouTube that Good Different is one of their favorite books of all time. I think it might end up being a few people's favorites. You're welcome. All right. Goodbye, everyone. People are saying goodbye, so I'm going to start logging off. I'll see you all. Have a wonderful afternoon. Oh, let me end over here too on YouTube. Hello, goodbye. Thank you so much for being here.